I am Callaway Walker. I am your host today for this networking, how to sell network term micros, network security. We have quite a bit for those who know our portfolio and our platform. So we're looking to help to simplify things for you guys. This might be just a re-education for some of you. For some of you, it might be brand new. So we're hoping that you guys take away some knowledge from today's call, and hopefully it gives you better understanding and you know how to have these conversations with your customers. Um, I didn't actually, I guess I didn't say my role at Trend. Let me go ahead and go to the next slide. So I am the manager of our channel business development. I work with some of our strategic partners here at Trent. With me today, we have Stephen Brevington. He is one of our principal solution engineers. He is a fantastic engineer, and he works alongside Stokes Jenny, who is our very large account manager. He's been with Trend, both of them have been with Trend for many, many years, and we're very lucky to have them on today's call for them to give you their perspective on actually selling these solutions that we're going to talk about today, and give some real world customer examples of how they landed Term Micro into some of these network security opportunities. Again, expand on questions that we should be asking. And I think at the very beginning, we're just going to give you guys a high level overview of Vision One. Again, for those who have been on these accelerator calls before, it's usually where we start, again, and give everyone a baseline knowledge. But then we are going to dive into TippingPoint DDI, as well as how that integrates into our Vision One, and talk about our NDR, which is our network detection and response capabilities. So that is a newer feature that we added within the last six months. It's very new. And then we will also go into competitive analysis. We'll talk about how we are complementary as well as, where we stand out. Stokes will go through two customer wins, and then also we're going to give you guys some questions that you can take away and ask your customers to help to generate some opportunities. And then once you have those opportunities, we will talk through how to submit those deal regs into the partner portal and where you can find the other education resources. Please feel free to use the chat and Q&A section of today's call. We will answer those as we go along, but then at the very end, we also have time. We'll leave time for Q&A too. So please, we want this to be interactive. We don't want to just talk at you. So please ask questions. And with that, Stokes, I'll let you take it away.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much, Callaway, for the great introductions. And as you mentioned, my name's Stokes Janney. I've been with Trend Micro for 10 years and been in the cybersecurity industry about 24 years. So our Vision One premise solution central console is illustrated here, and you can see at the top the cyber risk exposure management, and that's going to really generate a risk score. So we'll probably have some slides to share with you about Vision One. And you can see the individual components from endpoint security, cloud, on-prem data center, the hybrid data center of today's operations. And we're going to focus on the network security shield badge, if you will, also tying in email identity, AI and data center, and also a whole bunch of third-party feeds. So you can think of this as the central console that has probably been talked about for the last 20 plus years, but now it's here and it works and it's perfected, and we're excited about it at Trend Micro. Stephen, did you have anything to add at this point? Am I missing anything about
Yeah, so the big thing here is the visibility. So how we're tying all these components, including those third-party integrations together, and then doing analytics, which was developed some number of years ago, sort of on the network side. And you really start to get a good picture of what this threat was, where it come from, how it evolved, and we don't react to single events anymore. We start grading things on how these correlated events become important.
And yeah, thanks, Stephen. And I forgot to mention something from a relatability standpoint. I started off in the channel, a couple different channel partners way back when, to give you an idea of way back when, did some of the first Microsoft enterprise agreements with Fortune 500 companies. So a long time ago, when Steve Ballmer was running the show before he had a basketball team, and did some management there as well. So I'm a huge fan of the channel and like to think of maybe a little bit of unique understanding of how you all work. And if there's one message that Stephen and I can convey today is to try to think of Trend Micro, whether it's the first time or you've known about us for decades. Trend Micro's been around for 35 years, which is kind of unique feature, if you will. And Trend Micro is extremely global. Like if there's 170, 180 countries, we're in all of them, and having a global view and a global landscape can provide some unique advantages as well. But we want to help you make as much margin and profit as possible, but you also be doing your customers a great service in the idea of saving money and consolidating. And today we're going to focus on network and a product called TippingPoint, which is a huge strength of Trend Micro. It's a unique strength. Okay, this is page one of the placemat. Page two is all about the cloud. And so we call this the placemat because I'll laminate it and then we hand it out. And this is trying to illustrate Trend Micro all on one slide. Okay. So we'll talk about network, and this is a unique Trend Micro advantage that we have with TippingPoint. But all of the pieces and parts that are here that form a platform, that form a complete security portfolio, here's the unique Trend advantage. It actually works. So it works together. It's not easy, right? There's a lot of native tools here, but it can take years to get the agents to work and talk together and to have our Vision One console. As Stephen mentioned, we're not triggering off of any one single source, right? And as you probably know, or may or may not know, in the security world, your customers have 40, 50, 60 different security tools. They might think they only have a handful, but they have a lot once you do a little bit of digging. So the idea here is let's pull it all together and let's do as much prevention and protection as possible. That's a big differentiator between some of the companies out there that have Super Bowl ads and bring down airlines, those kind of competitors. What we do is we want to pull everything together. And so what Stephen's talking about to generate a workbench or a noteworthy event, there's usually multiple things that the attacker, that the hacker will do. We've got award-winning cloud security. There's probably 40 different modules of security with Trend Micro just within cloud security. And then our email protection is fantastic as well. You might be thinking, hey, my customer has Proofpoint, they have Mimecast, they use E3 and E5 with Microsoft. That's great. When it comes to email security, since 90+% of the threats come in through email, our thought is multiple filters are fine. They're great, right? So if you have 2 or 3 filters, and let's say we're the last stop, which is a simple plugin, that's great, right? You can't have too much protection. I think I'm good on this. Stephen, did you want to anything?
Yeah, the other differentiator, the two differentiators that we would talk about specifically to this is the network security piece starts to allow you to monitor devices that are unmanaged. And customers typically have 30 to 40% of these devices, and it's a Wild West. They're just doing whatever, and maybe you'll detect something at the firewall someday. The other thing is the proactive security line at the top. We're trying to move you into fixing risky things instead of waiting until they become risky enough that they're compromised. And those are the two most important parts of this placemat to me.
And thanks, Stephen. You all, you represent many different vendors, right? Many different manufacturers, software publishers, hardware manufacturers. And the idea here is this can really be an overlay or like a template where there's a coexistence phase. And during that coexistence phase, you as the trusted advisor can work with a customer, work with a company like Trend Micro to determine, hey, could we maybe replace and recapture the budget with today's uncertain environment and tariffs and all kinds of global pricing type things. I think if you're talking to your customers about saving money, while improving security at the same time, I think you'll get their attention, right? The whole saving money thing, possibly saving people with our MDR service, that can be a big deal. But it doesn't have to be a full rip and replace initially. That's probably a little bit more rare, but it is important for the customer to know that this vendor, we've got a plan where we can do a complete solution. It takes time.
So this is the TippingPoint high-level slide. So basically, it's a water filter. Oops. It's a filter. Dirty traffic goes in, clean traffic comes out. We block anything that's got a network correlated CVE. It's proactive. It's got really low latency. It's security built. It's built for threat hunting. It's powered by this zero-day initiative that Callaway has up here. That's fine, Callaway. I don't know why it's doing
How
that.
to stop it from going? It keeps auto.
That's okay. Well, we're done here. It's quick. It's easy to deploy, plug and play. It's automatic. It gets regular updates. It's powered by this zero-day initiative, we call it, where we've discovered more than 60% of the world's vulnerabilities on a daily basis, which means we can build an encrypted package filter that nobody knows about on the planet except us and the vendor and the guy that discovered it. And we throw that into the filter bank, and we filter that out for 60 to 90 days, maybe even 120 days beforehand. We have an agreement with the vendor on when that is going to be. And we are also a CVE issuing authority, which means we can pressure the vendor to fix it. In other words, we'll tell them in 120 days, we're going to disclose this, whether you fix it or not, which is quite powerful. It helps with targeted attacks, criminal undergrounds. It's got some IoT functions to it. It just is, and it's unprecedented in the market. There's nobody. We're happy to put this south of anybody else's IPS on the planet and show you what they're missing, because they just can't keep up with this box. Yeah, so 55 bugs, 50% of the bugs are found. 1,900 vulnerabilities disclosed in 2023. It's 2.5 times more discoveries than our nearest rival. And we're typically up to 96 days ahead of the industry before the breach can occur. Now, why this is kind of important, 96 days seems to be a long time. I'm not too, it's good, it's great that it happens like this, but we want to be, when it's dangerous, is the 24 hours to 72 hours to 24 hours ahead of the attack. The next slide's good, Callaway. You don't have to, you can get ahead of the patch. You don't have to wait for the patch time to come along, or you have to panic to patch it. You can take your time and test the patch, because everybody knows you got to wait for the third patch anyway when it's an emergency, right? Okay, Callaway, next slide.
I don't know. There's a.
I don't know. It's been doing that to me lately too.
Okay.
This is part of DDI, which is, so TippingPoint and DDI are partners in the network security space. TippingPoint typically lives in the perimeter to catch everything coming into the building or into your enterprise. DDI watches east-west, and this is a automation of information from a finding inside DDI that shows you the entomology of this attack, when it happened, where we've seen it before, who's involved. There's actually somebody clicking around in this video, so you'd have to do this manually. We cover up the malware characteristics. There's an attacker profile. We also have a sandbox that can go and detonate any files it finds, any URLs it finds, with what we call a private line, which we'll discuss in a little bit, and work with the bad guy to detonate these malware in the virtual machine, so we can identify it and tell the endpoints and TippingPoint to block them, so we don't, so we can get rid of those files and they don't hurt anybody. So it does sandboxes to match your environment, because you build it yourself. So it's not a sandbox that the bad guy knows about. He can't detect it. It's something new. Attachment analysis, we can decompress and unpack things and look at them. The important part is a URL analysis, not only reputation, but so we can go and grab the drop from the bad guy and explode it in a safe place and identify what that is, so we know about it and we can warn our endpoints and have TippingPoint block them. Next. This is a typical installation, and we do demos like this all the time. Stokes and I profess this against customers all the time. If you were willing to do this, we'll give you the box for some amount of time. It's reasonable enough for you to get a good feel for it. Put the tipping point in, put the DDI in, and show you how to use it. Ride herd on it for any amount of time. And this is a very powerful way to demonstrate this product, and we're happy to do this just about anywhere. The tipping point goes inline north and south, as I talked about before. The DDI pulls off a span board, or you can use a tap if you need to. What's important here is this dirty line I talked about before. This is the line by which the analyzers that live in this box can go and interact with the bad guy, pull down a drop, let the infection happen on a machine where it's safe, give it a decent report on what happened, and then flag it. So everybody down below in the corporate network knows about it. TippingPoint can actively block it, and we're saved the company from a possible breach.
Perfect. Thanks, Stephen. Just to ask a question too, just so partners understand. So TippingPoint you would place before or after a physical firewall, and DDI, would that be inside of a customer's network? Can you just explain?
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about that coming forward. Stokes coined the phrase the TippingPoint sandwich, which lives both before and after the firewall. But typically you would put it south because we want to be able to detect all the real addresses down below. If you're on top of the firewall, all the bad guys in the network look like they're coming from the firewall. So but there are reasons to put it north as well. So we'll talk about that a little bit more coming forward. This is the dashboard, the detection dashboard from Vision One. It gives you the key metrics and tells you if it's lateral movement or if it's CNC. These data come from both TippingPoint and DDI to give you a good picture of what is happening on the network side and what categories they're in and what the attack techniques have been. And so you can have a good picture of them. You'll also see the results of this in any workbenches that get built at the higher level if some of the machines in the network are interacting with this, particularly in the CNC and lateral movement space. You'll have a workbench if there's a CNC, and it'll show you which machines are involved and what the user IDs are. But this is strictly the high-level network activity panel. It also shows you the assets. So this is the risk score we talk about. So once we have network and all the rest of the components, we can start to tell you what your risk is and where it is, right? This is a new thing in the industry where if we can get you predictive information so you can proactively go and fix risky things, we know you're going to have a lot less events. Anything to add there, Stokes?
Stephen, I was going to say on the previous slide, if we can go back, I know we're having fun. So as a channel partner, if you think about your customers and you might be thinking about, hey, this is our best customer and want to test it out. Stephen, maybe we can share with TippingPoint at the really exciting industry of trucking, right? Of less than full load trucking. And so on a Monday morning, when we finally looked at the dashboard, because CNC stands for command and control, for those of you that may or may not know that. So command and control is that's a very, very late stage activity of a hacker. They are just about to steal and exfiltrate all the data, right? All the good stuff for them and the things you don't want out. But remember, Stephen, let's collectively describe the customer reaction when those flags started popping up. So what happened?
Yeah, we had a customer that Stokes is talking about. We put the thing in. It took us a few weeks to get it all hooked up and everything. But then we had a Monday meeting to get together and have the findings that we give it 24 hours to soak and come in and see what we see. We found out that they had internal routers inside the firewall talking to Iran and China. And post-investigation detected that they had bought these routers on eBay, and they had been engineered by China and Iran to not log any of this data. So there was no other way to see under normal conditions that this was happening, but Tipping Point was picking it up right away. And so this happened in 24 hours, and it was just more and more going forward that there was just a lot of dirty stuff going on, because this particular company had even higher ratio of unmanaged devices like barcode scanners and forklift, tablets and all kinds of other junk going on. And yeah, we found a ton of stuff right away.
Right. So from a sales motion standpoint, you can imagine, they immediately reacted to that. And as a salesperson, it was, you kind of got to cover your face to where it's like, it just showed the flags. So it'd be like, wait, is that Cyprus? Is that North Korea? Oh, that can't be good. And as Stephen mentioned, China and Russia. So this is a trucking company, right? They don't drive trucks across the ocean. So that's all I have to add.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm good with this slide too. Risk assessment of the network is kind of where we're heading to, but we want to add that, keep on focusing that this is an important component of Vision One, but it's really one of the most important components, but it's by no means its own solution. It has to be connected together with Vision One to give you that cyber risk assessment, right?
Absolutely. And also do wanted to say that the sea levels also love this feature as well too, because it does give them an active, live risk score of their environment, depending on, the agents that they have enabled within Vision One, so they can constantly kind of report back and maybe even justify to cost of expanding, additional security of like, hey, I've already improved our risk score from a certain amount, right? So it's an actual like number that we're giving back to the customer
So,
with actionable steps to help reduce that.
right. So Roman's got a couple of questions that all feed into the same thing. So Vision One takes from Qualys rather than adds to it. DDI does log all the pathways and gives you a detailed report of what every action was, what every registry key that was pulled, and every detail about that attack while it was detonating. And yes, we have found many devices have been co-opted and refurbished routers and firewalls almost everywhere we go.
And Stephen, I was going to add too, just for the general audience, is that Tipping Point is the closest to a set it and forget it appliance that we have. And it applies immediately a tremendous amount of protection just right out of the gate. So if you think about the security landscape, it's kind of exploded into this whole detection and response thing. Well, detection and response is after the fact, right? So do you really want to be notified about bad things that are happening or have happened after the fact, or would you like to prevent them and block them in the first place? That's what Tipping Point represents. Tipping Point represents real-time blocking, and the organizations in the United States and around the world that are the most serious about protection and prevention. I'll give an example of, major bank that they don't think it's funny to have billions of dollars stolen. There's no humor in that for them. Military, operations, three-letter agencies, they really want to prevent and protect and block, right? They want their vault, they want their multi-layered security system to actually work. Tipping Point is going to be at the heart. If you think about competing products, whether it's Cisco, whether it's Palo Alto, whether it's Checkpoint, they all add what's called an IPS blade to a chassis. Sounds good, sounds cute, sounds fun, but a purpose-built appliance where this is all you do. And when Stephen was talking about the 60% of 0 days, so if you think about what really scares people, it's the unknown. And the unknown is a 0 day. So if some organization says we catch 100% of all known threats, well, okay, so what? Those aren't normally the ones that get you. What gets you is what you don't know about, what you don't have a defense for. And this is a Trend Micro exclusive. So this is really, really important. And it's what really puts Tipping Point in a class of its own. It's really in a separate class. If there's a Gartner Magic Quadrant, which I know there is for network intrusion prevention systems, Tipping Point should be through the square on the upper right in its own new quadrant. I'm not kidding on that. Please test us on that with the customer to say, can you break this, or let's put this inside your firewall and see what a lot of people don't have any network intrusion prevention, depending on the size of the organization. But for the
Just
ones that do,
just the speeds and feeds in general, this is 100 gig box. It can do 5 microseconds of latency at 100 gig and give you 4 or 5,000 filters while it's doing that. Nobody else can touch this.
Stephen and I, because of Tipping Point at a county government, we received a sole source designation. So for those of you that deal in the SLED space, we were able to get sole source designation because of how unique and one of a kind that the ZDI program is, the Zero Day Initiative. It really is unique.
Yep.
Perfect. And then Stephen, did you want to summarize this slide of how, again, we feed Tipping Point and DDI into Vision 1 and how NDR?
Yeah. So the play that we've done that really works is sort of along the lines of this slide. You start off with the network piece because every truth in your network is on the wire. If you're watching the perimeter and you're watching the east-west everywhere, there isn't anything that can escape your view from these two things. And that plugs in with the third-party integrations, which isn't on here, and Vision 1 in general, so that we can start to, just with these two components, we have a 60 to 70% of the solution, and it tells you you need endpoint and server protection and email, because all of those things will become apparent once you start with that. So that's the 1, 2, 3 piece. Start with the network, do the third-party integrations, which are free, and then you start to be able to have a roadmap of what you need to do next.
Perfect.
Yeah, for the sales folks on, if you're familiar with the blue ocean concept versus a red ocean concept, is you can see we're staying far away from endpoint. That's very red ocean. That's very a lot of blood in the water. So that's something that could happen in the future. But this is more blue ocean, because you've got, gigantic network organizations that may or may not have that much of a focus on security, but this is all we do. And this is the best product in that space.
So, hey, Stokes, there's your Tipping Point sandwich.
Yeah. So love this. And yeah, this customer pre-win in the really, really, really exciting space of K through 12. Right. So another SLED space where they're always, we don't have any money, we can't do anything. So the Tipping Point sandwich, that idea is, and here's Palo Alto, right? Probably the #1 next generation firewall organization here is, hey, they provide an important function. We don't have a firewall, but we can protect it. So if you're familiar with DDoS, that stands for distributed denial of service. Most people just think of it as DDoS. That's where an attacker is going to hit you with a ping of death and, millions of
sin flood.
Yeah, sinful. Okay. And so you can have protection there. And there's also value to being outside just from a general filter and scrubbing standpoint, right? We've got these tipping point filters. So think of that as signatures. They're called digital vaccines. And then there's also this 0-day filter. So that's kind of a magic little filter that if a customer is very, very sophisticated, and if they ask directly, hey, did something happen in this space? We'll let that one customer go, but we need to protect Microsoft, or I'm sorry, the vulnerability leaders that generate all of this, such as Microsoft. We need to protect them while they come out with their patches, right? Their patch Tuesday. This allows the customer to be protected on almost 2/3 of these 0 days kind of automatically and in advance. So that's a really big deal. And then go ahead, Stephen.
So a couple of points that Stokes touched on that's interesting here. Every one of these segments that you see in this path of these paths has its own, could have or should have its own set of filters. You don't just, turn everything on everywhere. For this purpose, we can prevent duplication of filtering. If somebody from a school is going out to the internet and we're filtering for that vulnerability underneath the firewall, we can not filter for it there and start dialing down how much traffic goes through each thing. Every segment on these, every one of these lines going through that tipping point box can have its own filter, its own profile, and it's super flexible. We're also protecting 76 schools out there to the right. So that's a big deal. And every one of those schools can have its own filter because those segments can also create what's called a virtual segment. So you could have a virtual segment for school number one and treat it differently than all the rest of the 76 schools. It's kind of a really unique platform.
Yep. And we haven't spent too much time talking about the DDI, the Deep Discovery Inspector. That's the east-west visibility. You could almost think of that as a network camera. So as Stephen was mentioning, there's 57 schools, there's 57,000 students, right? So at least having one of these network visibility cameras at the school level, 57 of them, whether it's a 500 meg virtual DDI, or it could be a physical 500 meg DDI, just an appliance right there. You want to get that visibility because think about with schools or casinos or anywhere, if you go back far enough, they probably had one camera, right? Or they had 10 cameras and they're like, we're good. And then now they've got thousands of cameras because it's like, we're not good. We were watching the front door, we're watching the front gate. So anyhow, this is part of a whole portfolio solution for this particular sled customer. And this is a great partner story because the sales rep, he's really a hybrid. He has numerous Cisco certifications. He's a technical expert. He's an engineer. So Stephen and Alex really designed this, co-designed this together. He sold all the Cisco gear. He sold the Palo gear. So he's very integrated with the school system and other counties, kind of the sled specialist. And, the partnership, working at the beginning and working together with the channel partner on a particular opportunity, that's really, really important because when the customer sees that synergy, it's like, okay, my experts are kind of agreeing on this. Let's figure out how to pay for it.
Copy that. Yeah.
Thanks, Dex. And then just if you guys can just spend like 1 minute on this additional customer example, then we'll jump.
This was a wild ride, man. This is a good one.
So this is a regional hospital system, about 12,000 employees. And so the big story here, you can see TippingPoint at the top, and that's great. It does its job. Again, Palo Alto, it was Checkpoint actually. So in the last 7 years, they've switched from Checkpoint to Palo. But if you think about the center here with the multiple boxes, that's Deep Discovery Inspector. So we want to plant the idea in the seed. Look, DDI, or the Deep Discovery Inspector, it multiplies, right? It expands. So now we're, after a number of years, we're at the point to where they think of the DDI, and that's the camera, right? That's the visibility, that's the network camera. They want to get it down as low as they can go, which really think of at the building level. And now, and Stephen can attest to this, is we're really kind of spec'd into the building. So new facilities that are built with this hospital system, and they're also very acquisitive, right? So they'll buy us other hospital groups or other clinical groups. They kind of automatically think of, okay, what size appliance do we need? Do we need a 1 gig, 4 gig, or 10 gig for visibility? Because
it's built in, it's going to be built into the overall bill of materials for the new facility. If they're going to build a building, they're going to put Cisco switches in, they're going to buy telephones, we're just going to be included in that list.
Right. Just imagine you're any organization and you're purchasing another organization from a IT perspective. Well, are they clean? Are they infected? What's going on? Like, I don't know. Right. So I don't know is not a great answer. And the medical parallel is, that's why we call them viruses, right? Or antivirus and all of that. So you want to be able to see what's going on. And DDI is very, very good at that.
This particular customer is very centered around the life-threatening components of failure in their organization. And that's one of the reasons why they're doing all this dense network inspection, because they can't afford for that Da Vinci machine to not be able to work. If you're in the middle of a surgery,
yeah,
you can't stop.
Yeah, the robotic surgery. They're also a leader in robotic surgery, in case anybody's ever heard of the Da Vinci. So forward thinking. All right, coming to the end.
Yes, yep. And Stokes, if you want to talk about, our you already said how really nothing compares to our IPS solution. We've talked, I've heard Palo Alto's firewall mentioned quite a few times. We actually included a QR code. We actually have a link that talks about how we compare against Palo Alto Networks firewall. And then I don't know, Stokes, if you wanted to mention a few other things that might be useful, because I'm sure whenever these partners start to talk about network security, firewall is probably going to be the first thing that that the customer thinks about.
Yeah,
Right.
the highest thing here is the 34%, 30 to 40% unmanaged devices. This is why you need network here, right? The integration with Vision One allows you to make sure that the things you find on a network can boil down to protection and indicate risk. And no other vendor has this great a network protection, full stop.
Yeah, and Stephen, like some examples of how attacks get in, right? It's like fish tank thermometers or printers, right? That kind of thing.
Well, it's sort of they're easy to attack, so we won't be able to find that without east-west detection. One typical way things happen is, Sally Ann's going to come in on the weekend with photographs that somebody gave her social engineering wise on the weekend on the USB stick and stick it in the printer. Now the printer's owned. Now that guy can sit on that printer and take his time and find all kinds of other vulnerabilities. And if you don't see that thing until you get CNC on the perimeter, it's probably too late.
Yeah. And so, having a central pane of glass, having a risk score that everything is building towards, that's one of the main Trend Micro value propositions, because that score is something that your champion can bring to the board of directors, right? There's reporting where they can show to the board, and ultimately they have to sign off on paying for any of this. And look, the idea in security, you don't ever want to say 100% or I guarantee or you're never going to get a breach. But if we can do a high prevention and protection, and then when a fire does break out, when there's a problem, if we can quarantine that and put it out quickly, that's about as good as it gets, right? And you've got, the forensics and all the chain of custody. Okay.
Perfect. And I'm just going to skip over these questions. We are going to follow up and send you guys this PowerPoint afterwards, so you guys can reference the questions to ask your customers. But I just want to make sure we have enough time for the Q&A at the end. So just the action items. I'm about to share to your account managers here too, if you're not quite sure who they are. I did include a map of who your Trend Micro account managers are. So first would be to contact your account manager for a deeper dive. We're more than happy to set up a demo and actually show you the TippingPoint solution NDR. We're also working with several partners too to test this stuff out in their environment and enable them to be ready to demo for their customers as well too. So if that's something that you guys want to start doing, please reach out to us. And then of course, if you guys do have an opportunity, especially if you guys have Stephen and Stokes have been talking today, and you're like, oh, I have a perfect opportunity for, to test this out in a customer's environment to see how much they're missing. Again, for the customer to understand how many unmanaged devices that they have in their network, right? What are they missing? Please reach out to your account manager, submit that deal reg, and reach out to the account manager. That information can also be found in the partner portal. You'll go to the partner portal to submit that deal reg. And then after this call too, we do have a brief survey as well, if you don't mind taking that, just to let us know how we did. We do these accelerator calls every month. So we'd like to, learn how we can pivot and make this more beneficial for you guys. This is the map again. I will send this over, or we will follow up and send this after the call. Again, all of these resources are found in the partner portal, and we're constantly updating the partner portal resources too. So expect a whole nother refresh on the network security solutions that are available in the partner portal in the next couple weeks. And now we have 4 minutes left for Q&A. I think I saw quite a few questions. I think, Stephen, most of them are more technical. So if you want to try taking a stab at them.
Been answering some of the questions live. Anybody have anything else?
Let's see.
A few. Robert asked, do your devices integrate via API with third-party sort and SIM solutions?
Vision One does, yes. We integrate in both directions. We can feed a SIM or we can take information from it to include in the integration, for sure.
Perfect. And we are creating our own SIM solution as well.
Correct.
What else? I feel like I might have missed some.
Yeah, while you're perusing through that, I want to say deal registration, one or two or three more times is, get comfortable with the partner portal, put those deal registrations in. That automatically gives you 6 months, which can be renewed and extended, or maybe a new deal registration put in. But that gives you partner protection, right? So if you identify a customer and an opportunity, when in doubt, deal reg, just deal reg first, because that sets off an entire chain of events of mapping you to the correct account team. And so I would just really encourage that.
We want our partners to be the face of us to the customer as much as possible.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And Roman, I'm not sure if you already addressed this, Stephen, but Roman asked, is 90% plus threats penetrating through email historical all time, or does that take into account the large increase of identity-based breaches in 2024?
I think it's a moving target, and it's kind of dependent on the target. Some customers get a lot more and some get a lot less, depending on how vulnerable or how, what's the cherry look like. If there's $1 million, if there's $1 million at stake, then maybe they're going to try a little harder and send more emails. If it's like, there's nothing at stake, they probably just don't get as many.
Yeah, it's I I was thinking of a joke, but it's been decades. It's been decades in the it's only been the largest threat ever since email was invented.
Yep, that's correct.
Naiz, I bet you I'm butchering that name. So sorry. But the great question. Love it. We definitely have a solution. So is there a solution to inspect a breach site to ensure that
Yes.
it is clean? What
All of
solution?
our Service One Complete customers have access to what we call the IR team, incident response team. They're very good. They can dive in. And we had an incident last week with a customer. They were in there in an hour and they found false positive across the board. There was no breach, but that's our team that does that. And all of our customers have 48 hours of that as
Yeah,
part of their deal.
yeah. So that needs some human involvement, right? I mean, that's not just a tool.
Yeah, we have to make sure our customers understand, where is the fire alarm in the hallway? You have to know where that is so you can get incident response quickly. One of the things that happens when there's an incident is you can't get in or out because the first thing they do is pull a wire. So you have to have some phone context, and we make sure our customers understand how to do that.
And actually, I want to add on a little bit to Robert Blomgren's question. It's in some instances it's better than an API. Like for example, there's Splunk widgets, right? So that's designed, and then with IBM QRadar or Palo QRadar, I'm not sure who owns what at this point, but it's a little more than API to where it's custom designed to work with those popular SIM and SOAR solutions. And as Callaway mentioned, we're rapidly developing our own.
And we didn't even talk at all about the automation piece of it. Some other day we should probably, Callaway, have someone talk to them about playbooks as part of Vision One that we would adventure from, where these detections can kick off automation, isolate people, disable stuff. And I mean, it's beyond the scope of this call, but it's an important piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to that point too, we're often told by our customers that these solutions that, we talked about these network solutions, specifically TippingPoint, DDI. I've heard multiple times that these are actually giving, additional headcounts to people that don't have the funding for these additional headcounts, just because it's doing so much and you can automate it. And I think Stokes, you had mentioned, set it and forget it solution. It truly is that, and gives that, customers, reduction of risk, better security, but also just less, hands-on, right? Less they have to worry about.
Yep, absolutely. And I see times soar, Robert. And that might be a little more on the API side, but we've got robust solutions for integrating with SIMS and SOAR, so you can feel confident about that. And there's also the log inspection module, which can consolidate and trim down the bulk, right? Because sometimes you're being charged by the data transfer. So this can allow the Vision One to net it down.
Perfect. Thank you so much for everyone who joined today's call. Please feel free to just shoot us an email too if you guys have additional questions. We're here to help. Like I said, next steps are to reach out to your channel account manager. We will follow up and send you the slide deck too. But like I said, please feel free to reach out if you guys have any opportunities or any further questions. We really appreciate your time here.
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming.